Guinea is another country which has been affected by Ebola. In 2016, 3 years after the country's first case of Ebola was reported, the World Health Organization declared Guinea free of the disease. But more than 2,500 people died in the country's worst epidemic, and the effects are still being felt. Lessons learned from that outbreak have informed how medics handle outbreaks in other countries.
Life in Conakry moves fast as residents race across the streets seeking their fortunes. But just 3 years ago, this city presented a different face. Then, the country with a population of just over 12 million people was battling the deadly hemorrhagic fever, Ebola. Patient Zero was an 18-month-old child who contracted the virus in a remote village in 2013. Dr. Pepe Perivogue was one of the first doctors who were called in to help contain the disease, even as it spread, first to the capital and then to neighboring countries.
Here, Guinea is started by Guinea, who is a big city and more than 100,000 people. And the capital also, the big city Conakry, and so on. So the outbreak was very, very hard for us to end it.
Over 6,000 people in Guinea contracted the disease. Of these, over 2,500 died. Medics launched an aggressive campaign. First, they strengthened the country's healthcare systems. Then they set about tracing the patients.
Wherever you would have a case, so the community health workers were involved in community-based surveillance, event management and contact tracing. So hundreds of medical students were trained to go and support the intervention on the field.
This approach reduced the number of incidents of Ebola, but to eradicate it, medics gave one last big push.
The vaccine was an innovation that also accelerated the end of the epidemic. This approach was also not completely new because it was used before in the eradication of smallpox, called ring vaccination, because you would identify a person who is ill, all his or her contacts, and vaccinate around that person.
In 2016, Guinea was declared Ebola-free.
Guinea's fight against Ebola is a story of innovation and dedication, and with the knowledge that they have gathered here, medical experts in Guinea are now able to lend their expertise to other countries, helping to ward off an outbreak of the magnitude of the West African Ebola outbreak.
In the face of recent cases of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a team of Guinean medics has been sent to bolster efforts to contain that outbreak. They are now preparing to use a new vaccine. But in Guinea, residents are still cautious and still observe the precautions.
Whenever you go to the hospital, you make sure you wash your hand immediately when you get out from the hospital. If I found out anybody with symptoms with Ebola, the most important thing that I can do, I can just try to call any medical doctor around to come and look after the person.
The virus is gone, but medics are still building capacity. They are determined to ensure that in the event of another outbreak, the virus will find a country prepared to take it down before it can take hold again. Wilkis Anyabwa, CGTN.